Hello and welcome everyone to this session from today's Decarbonization Forum of Capital Link. I'm not alone here. I have four distinguished panelists to join me and to have a vibrant discussion. I will start introducing Mr. Young Chang James Son, President and CEO of Hanwha Power Systems.
Hi.
Welcome. Mr. Fotis Dalmiras. Mr. Fotis Dalmiras, CEO of Andriaki Shipping Company. Welcome.
Good afternoon, thank you.
Mr. Christopher Rex, Head of Sustainability and Research of the Danish Ship Finance. Welcome. And last but not least, Captain Pankaj Sharma, Director of OneLink. Thank you all for being here. Let's have a vibrant discussion. So the topic of this session is energy efficiency, and the question is, why has the industry started to talk more and more about energy efficiency the past years? And of course, the answer is because we need to reach our decarbonization targets. And we see more and more regulations coming. This has been a milestone year for shipping. It has been the first year that we saw a widely applied CO2 tax being enforced on shipping operations through the EU ETS. Next year, we expect to see Fuel EU with a bit lower cost at the beginning, but gradually being more and more. And in the next few years, we may see IMO introducing a similar scheme as well. But still, at least for today, we don't see these emission costs driving large investments around fuels. We see that behind the vast majority of the vessels that go for alternative fuels, there is some commercial driver behind it. There is some cargo owner or some charterer that set their requirements. And for the rest of the vessels, the uptake is slow. On top of that, we foresee some low availability on alternative fuels. In a study we published last year, we saw that shipping, in order to remain compliant, will need to burn 30 to 40% of the global green fuel supply in order to achieve the targets. And comparing that to the 3% of the energy share, market share that shipping has, it creates a challenge. And in order to move forward, what can we do today? We end up to energy efficiency. It's something that we know as an industry. There are many technologies, many vessels that can still get a lot of improvement through these technologies. And it helps us in two ways. First, we reduce consumption of the global fleet. By improving energy efficiency, we will reduce consumption of the vessels, and then therefore we will reduce the demand on these alternative fuels. So it will make it a bit easier for shipping to find the fuels in the future. And also at the same time, although we don't know what the fuel of the future will be, we know it's going to be more expensive. So in reality, where we have an inflated fuel bill, having less fuel consumption is even more important. And so we have a great opportunity to have a good discussion today. We have four representatives of the industry from various stakeholder views: makers, ship owners, vendors, and financiers. And without further ado, I would like to start from you, Fotis. If you could give us, from the owner's perspective, the regulatory and the commercial pressure is on you. So what are the options that you are currently investigating? And of course, do you think, before we go there, do you think that energy efficiency is critical indeed?
Thank you, Jason. Thank you, the entire Capital Link team, for inviting us to this interesting forum. Indeed, we live in a very challenging and disruptive period of time, and our operations are focused in optimizing energy efficiency on existing ships, as well as our strategic planning is looking ahead to new technologies on a risk base, however, and sustainability matter, because it's not only the technology itself, but whatever is behind that. So yes, the pressure is on, but at the same time, we are confident that we can live up and come up with sound and concise solutions that will add value both to us and our partners in business. In terms of the existing fleet, we currently exhaust all sorts of measures to enhance energy efficiency, not only from technical point of view, an example to reduce all sorts of resistances, either water or air, and reduce also the electrical power consumption. We use premium hull paints, ducts, etc. But also from operational point of view, primarily being the voyage and route optimization, as well as the strict performance monitoring with cross-validation processes. You see, if we could only work together with charterers, sub-charterers, shippers, receivers, and terminal, we could have such a reduction of greenhouse gas emissions from voyage optimization by eliminating the idle time at ports and adjusting the proper speed of the vessel in order to reach on time at her destination. That would significantly contribute in meeting the IMO short-term measures, as well as mid-term measures, I would say. But this required maturity from all stakeholders to work together and pursue the same goal, which is actually the emission reduction from seaborne trade. The investment and return will eventually be equally shared among all stakeholders, making this effort worth taking. So there would be a consensus on what we should pursue and how this becomes tangible without millions of dollars to be invested. This, of course, means that existing ships should continue to be commercially active beyond the 20 years of their commercial life, speaking for tankers, of course, having addressed all safety and operational concerns while introducing all necessary energy-saving upgrades that should be done. To my eyes, therefore, it is far more reasonable and sustainable approach to pursue the energy efficiency on existing vessels than investing in new technology that are very interesting and will be possible to invest in the future, but currently, some of them, they don't even have the necessary hazard identification during completing, or the engines are not yet commercially available to be manufactured. So it is much more sensible to invest in biofuels, carbon capturing, and wind-assisted propulsion technologies that can be adapted or retrofitting on existing ships, while gradually gain experience and reliability on alternative or synthetic fuels, which are carbon neutral or free.
Yeah, thank you. And indeed, I think we have been discussing for many years that in order to achieve the targets, we need wider collaboration from all the stakeholders. We have a lot of low-hanging fruits from just the operational part, and we will come back to that later at our discussion. But before that, I would like to, you mentioned, Fotis, that you have done everything for your vessels from an energy efficiency point of view, and this prolongs the life of the vessel. And we hear more and more owners that try to prolong the life of their vessel, and mainly they do it by improving energy efficiency. So I would like to ask James, is this something that you see as well from your side, from the maker's point of view?
So, thank you. Jason, your question is about extending the life of the vessel by improving energy efficiency. But we have to think about what the life extension means. The word life extension itself has two different meanings. One is increasing physical life of a ship. The other is increasing the operable life of a ship. They are totally different. To increase the physical life, as you know, we can simply repair the broken part or exchange equipment or repairing the ship. But the purpose of extension of the operable life is to operate the ship with bigger economic benefit. So we improve the efficiency of the ship, reduce fuel consumption and emission, and avoid the penalties which result from tightened regulation like EU ETS and FuelEU Maritime in the future. So I have met many ship owners, and they are all very interested in energy-saving device retrofit to prolong the operable life of a ship. Let's think about FuelEU Maritime as an example. This regulation will start in 2025, next year, and require 2% reduction from 2020 reference greenhouse gas intensity level during first 5 years, and 6% reduction during next 5 years. If you cannot meet that reduction target, you have to pay the penalty. But if you do some energy-saving device retrofit in your existing vessel and can meet the regulation, you don't need to pay that penalty. That means what? That means your ship's operable life is extended by 10 years. So our company has many ongoing projects and in discussion with many customers. Ship owners who are interested in retrofit like ALS, rotasail, or shaft generator motor, for example, always wonder, it is really effective? And what is the payback time? If the remaining physical lifetime of the ship is not that long, it is very important to evaluate the real total benefit they can get compared to the retrofit cost. So we are trying to reduce the burden of the ship owner's investment and look into the physical lifetime extension of the ship as well. There is no accurate procedure or regulation for the lifetime extension of the ship yet. So we need cooperation and support from ship class like DMV. I am considering how to set up the process and how to maximize the asset value of ship owners. If we can provide the retrofit together with the ship lifetime extension, I am pretty sure the ship owner will be able to get a huge benefit.
Yeah, thank you very much, James. Indeed, it's one thing is the technical analysis and how can you improve the energy efficiency, but in our business, we care about the techno-economic analysis. And always, one thing is to define what retrofit to do and how to do it, but of course, we also need to find a way to finance this. And we need to find how can the owners be incentivized financially. So, Christopher, could you maybe enlighten us on how can the green transition be supported from a finance point of view?
Sure. Thank you, Jason, for this, and James. It was a pleasure learning more about your thoughts. I think first of all bankers these days understand that we need to link how we incentivize behavior and environmental reductions. As you may know, the Danish Ship Finance is a part of the Poseidon Principles. We are sitting in the steering committee and are clearly committed to finance the transition of the shipping industry. One of the big topics in my mind is not so much the degree of how we link the margin of the loan with the ship's performance. That makes perfectly sense, and I think today it is relatively a standard product that you can incentivize emission reduction through linking emissions with the margin of loan. So when you are performing good, you get a discount, and if you're not performing so good, you're paying a premium on your margin. I think one of the big issues to my mind is not about this mechanism, but much more on how do we identify what good looks like. And I'm not in the market for bashing CII or EEOI or whatever measure we are discussing. my key concern here is that on the one hand, I am very much in line with the gentlemen before me that yes, we can meet the 2030 targets. I think it will make perfectly sense because meeting them means burning less fuel, and that means reducing your costs. So long, so good. But when we're talking about how do I support Fortis's energy efficiency improvements is a question about what kind of KPIs do we put together where we agree that when have Fortis done good or when might Fortis be slightly behind schedule. If you take the example of the CAI rating, for example, and within the Poseidon principles, we are very much in favor of linking the margin of the loan towards the annual efficiency ratio that is very similar to the CAI rating of the ship. But the difficulty here is that we are comparing apples with oranges. We are not necessarily comparing apples with apples, meaning that we are comparing, let's say, two MR tankers that are built identically. They're sister vessels. They have the same EEDI rating. They might even be owned and operated by the same owner. But one ship is operated on difficult voyages and others are being operated on voyages with low waiting times. And the latter ship will receive a significantly better CAI rating, whereas the first one with operating on difficult voyages could receive a quite low or even non-compliant CAI rating. And then we ask ourselves, yes, we would like to link the performance of the ship with the margin of the loan. But how do we really do that? Do we need to penalize the ship owner before he or she have been waiting 60 days in the moorage out of West Africa? That is not necessarily what we intend to do. We intend, and I mean, the whole terminal efficiency, turnaround time around terminals is a significant part of the CAI ratings and annual efficiency ratio. So to me, what we need before we can do this even more than what we do today. Today we are linking performance on the AER with the margin, but we're doing it to a degree where the owner might get 5-10 basis point reductions, maybe even in that range. If we should do something that is much more meaningful, we need to identify a target that is also much more meaningful and much more reflecting how the ship is actually performing and how the ship owner is actually performing. And there we might begin to consider introducing something like a fuel benchmark on specific voyages that defines the operational benchmarking of that trip vis-a-vis other ship owners that have performed the same trip on the same within the same time frame. So we are largely in favor of this, and we think that it is a very strong incentive, strong instrument to incentivize the uptake of energy-saving devices. But I think we, together with the industry, as broad as possible, need to find a new way of benchmarking what good looks like. And I think this is one of the big challenges, at least for us as bankers. Thank you.
Yeah, no, that was very interesting view, and I think you again repeated the point that Fortis made in the beginning, that we need to act in a wider stakeholders approach. But also the second point I would like to stand from your response was that we need a lot of KPIs and monitoring, and this can be achieved through the increase of digitalization on the vessels as well. Because we talk about technology and retrofits and investments, but we have a lot of low-hanging fruits there. And many talk about the 2Ds, the digitalization and the decarbonization. And as such, I would like to address to you, Pankaj, do you think that digital technologies can play an important role? And could you give us a few examples of the most prominent ones, please?
Okay. Thanks, Jason, and good morning and good afternoon or good evening, depending where you are, to our forum. Yes, digitalization for decarbonization is quite important. We all know it, but we also are very well aware that our industry is plagued with unstructured data, fragmented data, and also at many times not even usable data. So the first element, and what we've all been talking about, is how to manage decarbonization and how to look at energy efficiency of the future. From the data perspective or from the digitalization perspective, we go by a quote, which is you have to measure it to manage it. And in order to measure it properly, you have to have proper tools, proper formats, and proper ways of doing things. Like I said before, our industry is dealing with fragmentation of service providers, which also means fragmentation of data formats. We could be looking at an engine maker A or service provider B, which work on completely different systems, thus causing unusability or lack of integration between these two. So we are seeing the advent of AI and the advent of modern data management systems. So like having a marine data backbone, which could ingest data from various formats in order to be able to give proper insights about the decarbonization journey. To give an example, let's say we have an energy saving device installed on a vessel like rotor sails. How well are they being used? How well are they complementing the engines? Are all the other machineries that are associated with it being used optimally? What is the machinery health? And when I say health, it's not about efficiency, it's about how good the operation parameters are. All this we need to be able to do better. At OneLink, we have seen some softwares, and one of them being EngineLink, which is able to do this quite efficiently. And we would want to see more and more data management platforms which can do this. Finally, there are market forces coming into the picture. We're talking about biofuels, we're talking about CII versus trade benefits. Like Christopher mentioned about waiting time in West Africa. All these are impacting on the ratings of the vessel as well as the charter rates. So a vessel operating on easy voyages could be on a lower charter rate, and a difficult voyage could be on higher charter rate. And these kind of negotiations can only be done with the digital tools, which give you the insights into the ease or difficultness of a particular voyage. So altogether, what we say is that digitalization is absolutely necessary for decarbonization. We need to have a structured approach to be able to integrate and have proper tools to make informed decision making. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pankaj. I will catch a phrase that I liked. Market forces are coming and moving. And of course, many things happen at the same time. I think it's clear that every stakeholder is very focused on decarbonization and how can they affect their ESG rating or their emissions directly, scope 1 to 3. But at the end, for the shipping industry, the owners are the ones to take the decisions. They are the ones that they need to take the bets and to take the bets. So with this, I would like to come back to Fotis and ask, what is your drive to retrofit and improve energy efficiency? Are the regulatory drives enough, or are there commercial incentives as well that impact your decision?
Well, actually, we don't rely that much to commercial incentives to drive our decisions for energy efficiency improvements. We do follow the regulatory requirements, which is a must, of course, but we are also believers on this effort, and we just follow what we have to do. Yes, as soon as the ship's performance is improved, and we realize, just to give you an example, on Suezmax tankers, we realize improvements of 15% or more if we sum up all the energy efficiency devices and systems that we are applying. So it is important, it is significant. So as soon as the improved performance results are solid and presentable, we can then easily realize an improved commercial interest than what the vessel was before, speaking about the same ships, and realize better freight rates that are being offered and negotiated and agreed upon. So yes, reduced consumption, because we talk about consumption, bring better commercial agreements, and of course drive the decarbonization targets ahead. This does not only meet our sustainability goals, but of course meet our charterers' requirement target for more eco ships. So this is a win-win decision for all stakeholders involved, and the investment, even if it is quite big, does pay off very soon. So this is a good way forward.
Thank you. That's very good to hear, and I think it aligns with other owners as well. And but there are some specific vessels and segments that we see through this large uptake on energy efficiency. There is a new issue arising called split incentive. You touched on it, Fotis. In other words, it's when a stakeholder needs to invest and cover the capex while someone else is getting the benefit from the reduced fuel consumption. Of course, this is related to the specific commercial agreements that vessels may have. Time charter and spot vessels may have different views on that. But
if you allow me, we split it in a sense. If the vessel is time charter, then it is being reflected in an improved time charter freight rate. If the vessel is on in the spot market, yes, this comes directly back to the owner through the reduced fuel consumption. So in any case, either being on time charter or on the spot market, it gets paid off. It has very, very good result in the commercial description of the vessel, as well as the environmental performance of the vessel.
Yeah, and this is what we see as well. Christopher, would you like to also add from your finance point of view?
Thank you, and I think I have completely follow you for this, but I think we should also add an additional layer and distinguish between repayment periods here, because clearly all energy saving updates that have a short repayment period. Let's take the most easy example of introducing a more advanced paint, and you can have a repayment period within a year. Clearly, this is an easy win for both parties. If you have a charter and the ship owner, but things get more complicated when you have longer repayment periods, and if you are getting towards 5 or 7 years repayment period before an energy saving device or an upgrade is paid back, this is clearly making the picture less transparent. To me, the long-term challenge around energy efficiency improvements, when we take the longer view on, is a question about long-term planning and long-term commercial partnerships. And it is with all the business model dynamics where we have very short-term dynamics that is dictating behavior. I think it is very difficult to see how can we maintain this focus while continuing to aim for energy efficiency improvement 1 year after another. So to me, it clearly makes sense that if you are installing energy saving devices on board your ship with a longer repayment period that are also more difficult and more advanced to operate, your whole crewing strategy is also becoming more complex. It might be less easy to engage with a third-party crew manager, simply if you are not expecting to see the crew again on board your ship, and the full potential of the new devices will only be monetized if your crew have the proper introduction to the new equipment. So I think that the more complex we get, the more integrated, the more long-term focused on energy efficiency improvements we get, the more important it becomes to have full control of all elements of owning, operating, and crewing individual ships. and that is clearly easier for some business models than for others. So when we talk about split incentives between, let's say, owners or charterers, to me it is also a question about that some business models are more likely to prosper in the years to come, and some business models might find it more difficult to prosper in the years to come, simply because of what control they have over the different elements of the operations. And again, yes, we have for example, the BIMCO clause that a lot of people could argue, but the BIMCO clause will ensure that we are receiving a ship back that is as good rated as when we delivered it. And again, yes, but we're putting commercial restrictions on the vessels, and that always comes with a cost. So on the one hand, you might get a vessel back with the same rating, but you are never, to my understanding, revenue neutral. It will always come at a cost when you're restricting the usage of the vessel. So I think business models and long-term planning comes at a cost, and it will benefit some ship owners, and other ship owners will need to adapt, or at least they will need to accept that things are not as easy as what might have been the case in the previous years. But please, Fotis, please help me out if you disagree with me. I'm just a banker.
No, I would say that indeed crew performance and upkeeping with all this new equipment is a challenge. This the energy saving devices that we are discussing are not that complex. Imagine if we speak about alternative fuels and new types of engine, etc. It will be very challenging. But what we do apply does not require that much expertise. So the current expertise of the crew, on average, let's say, available in the market, can keep up and perform on a quite good way. So there is no, I would not consider this as a big problem. I would say that performing a full sustainability and feasibility study of all the various energy efficiency devices that an owner can select off the shelf to install on his ship is very important, because some of them just overlap another technology. So making a feasibility study on the full set of energy devices that an owner intends to install, that is very important. And this feasibility study should be done by qualified people or companies like the DNV Consulting Services, which has done in the past for us such studies. And these studies are auditable, so you can also present them to bankers or charterers quite safely, I would say. And in the end, we do realize that what has been studied and was on the paper, we actually see it in practice.
I think that coming back to the crew point that you both touched, the technology may be simple, but it gets more and more complex, and especially if we add the fuels, it will become complex. Even the simple operation of bunkering may be not something easy to do. And we focus on the technology, but we tend to forget that the vessels are not yet autonomous. We need some decades or more for that. And until then, crew members will need to operate them. And we got Christopher's and Fotis' comment. I would like to also hear from Captain Pankaj, how prepared do you think we are in terms of crew training, and what are the immediate actions we need to take in order to prepare for this technology-focused industry?
Thanks, Jason. Yeah, it's good to see the debate on crew readiness with regards to technology. I agree partially with Fotis that at present what we are doing may be enough for the crew competencies, but what the future holds for us requires crew to be trained at a different level. which means we have to adapt to new technologies. The crew, they normally go through their certification exams, which are based on technologies much from like 20 years ago, but skill-based training is still missing. One of the approaches that we have taken at OneLink is we are also creating crew awareness programs with regards to decarbonization. So not just keeping them aware about what is CII, what is ETS, or what is fuel EU, but what their actions contribute towards a vessel's rating or a vessel's performance or a vessel's commercial performance when it comes to ETS. And as a secondary step, when we are seeing new technologies, and we took this learning from the scrubbers. When the scrubbers were installed, a lot of engineers came on board and they were handed over a manual how to run it. But there was not constant training and retraining. And as the crew changed, the use or the efficiency of these equipment started going down because the crew were not using it to their maximum. What we did on our side was we looked at the whole problem from a fresh set of eyes. We said, what could be the new technology, which is far more immersive than a normal training, is much more engaging and has a better recall value. And we identified augmented reality and virtual reality as a technology. And now we have created many courses, which are as simple as doing vessel safety familiarization, sitting at home wearing a virtual reality headset, or doing a multiple user scenario of operating a particular machinery or a particular equipment or a particular energy saving device. We're able to do this in a simulator environment. So instead of creating one simulator and calling everybody to do it over there, it's a simulator and a headset. You could wear it, you could be on board, and you could then operate these machineries. And thus it makes it far more engaging and far better recall value for the vessel crew to be able to operate those machineries. Thanks.
Thank you, Pankaj. I think especially with all this VR technology, it's the best way forward. You can play around, you can create this culture, and it's easy to make in any place in the world. But with this, and going to the other side of the curve, I would like to ask James, because we talk about technology, we talk about how the energy efficiency measures can look like, and how can we train the crew, and how can we finance these things. But one needs to make these energy efficiency retrofits. And currently, the yard capacities are at full. We see with all these new building activities. So I would like to ask you if you see, how do you see this affecting large scale energy efficiency retrofits, and shall we expect long delivery times?
So I think new building shipyard and retrofit shipyard are different. Even if new building market is booming like today, I don't think it is directly linked to the lack of retrofit shipyard slot. But some energy saving device items applied to the new building is also applied to retrofit. Then the delivery of that equipment can be delayed. So that can be an issue, So recently, I can see a growing demand for retrofit for efficiency improvement and dual fuel conversion. So retrofit shipyards are very busy, today. For large scale retrofit such as ALS, rotasail, and dual fuel conversion, it is very important to secure retrofit shipyard in advance. As you know, in 2020, ballast water treatment system and emission gas cleaning system retrofit were delayed due to overcapacity of retrofit shipyard slot and equipment delivery time. Based on these lessons learned, we have a plan to make frame agreement with a qualified retrofit shipyard in a long-term basis, and we are also trying to optimize the retrofit process and control the delivery time of that equipment on schedule. The core competency of this kind of project is project management based on experience and know-how to minimize the ship's downtime. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I think we reached the end of our session. Thank you all for being timely. I hope the attendees enjoyed this session. I surely did. Just a short recap. I think we all agree energy efficiency is important. It is it makes sense to prolong the life of a vessel instead of just early scrapping it and going for some new technology. There are challenges behind the finance of this that we are currently working and that we solve. And of course, digital technologies. And again, I really like the example of the VR technology used for training Pankaj is something that can significantly help us in the way ahead. So with this, I would like to thank you all for your good discussion, for our good discussion, and I would like to thank you all for joining and attending this session.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.